Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, how are we? The galahs are chirping.
Very, very well.
That's nice to hear.
I've got my noise cancellers on. I can't hear
They're not
nothing.
here.
I can hear them. They're not mine. They're not here. No, I had a very noisy magpie the other day, but that sounds like galahs from here. Yep.
Yeah, it is.
I like it. You know, it just adds to the ambiance.
Bit of
the
Australiana.
That's right.
Yeah, they're here. The guest speakers. We like galahs on Trial by Wine.
Shut up, you silly
Come on,
bunny
big
galah.
galah.
Flaming galahs.
That's it, your flaming galah. Any news?
Have I got any news? No.
I've got something that you might think is Swanee.
Yeah.
I was driving along
Not
today.
Schmidty.
Well, no,
Not
you
Schmidty.
might, but you know, it's
You won't
it's
get
one
it.
of our
Won't
more
understand it, that's right.
Swanee-centric jokes. I think.
niche.
So I drove past a lawnmower today, and the name of the business was Lawns and Order Special Maintenance Unit.
Cute.
Oh,
I like
I
it.
love
And
that.
I was too slow with the phone to get you a picture of it. But
I
Oh my
like
God,
that.
we
it
need a
did make me
T-shirt. That's
giggle.
brilliant. Oh, I like the effort they've gone to. And is that in
Yeah.
Albury Wodonga or somewhere else?
It was, it was in Albury.
Albury? Yeah. I'm not supposed to call it Albury Wodonga, am I? What am I supposed to call it? Like
No,
colloquially?
you can.
Like, you know how, like, if you're talking about Wangara, you call it Wang or
Yeah.
whatever else.
Wang.
What do you
So
call
Wodonga gets called the Dong.
The dong.
the dong? Oh, yes, I knew you'd say
Yeah.
that. That's what I was. I forgot.
Albury gets called Albury really, but because everyone knows everyone, it does sometimes get called Smallbury, which is nice.
How small is it smaller than Wodonga or is it?
Oh,
Not
I don't know, it's just been booming the last few years, so I don't really know anymore. But when we moved up here, there was maybe, I don't
I
know,
don't know where I've been there,
90,000
but I
people
have.
across the two.
Does the river divide you?
It
Yeah.
does,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've definitely been there. I think it must have been when we. I don't know.
Yeah,
Why
the-
I've been there.
The
Maybe
river
as a
was
child.
our lockdown border when we had
Oh.
lockdown offs between Victoria and New South Wales.
That's
That
a bit
was
tough
it.
when you're on the
Albury,
border. I
as
guess.
an LGA, has 58,317 people in 2024. And then when you combine it with Wodonga, it exceeds 100,000 residents. It's a major regional hub.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
There's
reckon
nothing
it used to
small
be-
about it.
I don't think of it as being small.
Twin City.
Yeah,
I get your point, though. Everyone knows everyone.
border towns.
Yeah,
It's
there's-
a bit
there's
like,
2 degrees
what
of
is it, Tweed Heads and
separation.
Coolangatta. It's like your version of that. Like
It's
New
bigger
South
than
Wales,
Sunbury.
Queensland,
It is.
just
Yeah.
probably a little bit less coastal.
Yeah, and
Quite
lots
less
of
coastal.
2 of everything. There's got to be 1 in Albury and 1 in Wodonga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is great. Actually, I did hear, because of course we're going through the petrol crisis at the moment, they were talking about, the number of petrol stations in Victoria that have run out of either petrol or diesel or both. And apparently it's 100. And then they start going through places that have run out of petrol, and 5 petrol stations in Wodonga have run out of diesel. And I think 4 had run out of petrol. And I don't know if they're the same ones or not. But
It's a
if there's
dry argument.
if there's 100 in Victoria that have run out of petrol,
5% already.
5% are in Wodonga.
Oh,
That's a lot.
That is a bit of a concern. Yeah.
that is true, actually. Yeah, when you look at it like that. I
Have
thought
they
it was odd
fully
last night
run
when I
out-
saw them talking about that. They were focusing all on Queensland. I was like, why are they just telling us what's going on in Queensland? It wasn't like, it was the late news, so I guess it was for everywhere. But I was like, oh, it seemed rather specific. Like we were finding out exactly where in Queensland they had no more fuel left.
In terms of running out of fuel, did they run out, or they were waiting for another delivery?
Well, I think everyone, when they run out, is waiting for another delivery. It's just a matter of
No,
when
no,
it's coming.
If it's going to come more like within 24 hours, because there was some rebel rousing on the Sunbury Community Facebook page this morning with regards to a couple of our local petrol stations that had run out of 91. And there was responses from various people saying, stop dramatising.
Oh, yeah,
They're going to
stop
get
panicking.
they're going to get another delivery in the morning. You can buy the premium, And I was like, I just laughed. I just thought,
Jeez. I mean,
Just lurking in the
also, they
background.
run out. It's inconvenient.
It
is
is.
what it is.
oh, it was very inconvenient for the gentleman who was turned away from the BP when he tried to fill up a 5-litre can for his lawnmower. was most upset when they turned him away. Luckily, the 7-Eleven or somewhere else was a little bit
Was
more
not so
appropriate.
nonsensical.
Yeah, I mean, whether you
You
put
would
it
pay
in your
another 50
Fine,
cents
but-
later.
bucks for
Is
going.
the petrol Nazi saying you can't have 5 litres for your lawnmower? Like,
Oh,
come
no.
on.
Last week, I was with a friend and we were in a petrol station in regional Victoria, and they had very expensive jerry cans. Like a jerry can's about $25 for 20 litres. These babies were over 50, so they were cashing in on that one. Just normal plastic jerry cans. And then they also had a sign, though, that said you could not actually fill a jerry can at their petrol station, at their Bowsers.
Regional Victoria is a little different to Sunbury, where there's, more
It's half an hour
towns.
from Sunbury, the regional town.
But
I'm
also
talking about.
5 litres, not 20.
30 k's from Sunbury, I'm talking about when I say
it's not
regional
very-
Victoria.
Yeah, not
Have
very
you guys
regional.
ever had a
then.
jerry can?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
you
got
do
plenty
that?
of them.
Do you use them?
Yes.
Yeah.
For what?
Schmidty
Like
stocked up
fuel.
last week, remember?
For what?
Diesel fuel for the caravan.
I've got 40 litres of
Schmidty's
petrol in
practically
the
a petrol
garage.
station.
Is that just in case? Like you're just ready to go? Or do you have that always? Okay.
No, I generally have 20 litres. But
Why?
I've got 40 for things like boats and
Okay.
generators and
You
stuff.
Okay.
really do forget everything we talk about. She told us last week that she sent Tony down to the servo to get
did.
to fill a jerry can of petrol.
Fuck, I totally
And he
missed
got
that.
diesel as well. He got
It wouldn't have interested me. So now I'm interested. I'm like, what? I mean, I know what a jerry can is.
Ooh.
I've never touched one.
Who's
I
Jerry?
wouldn't know what would I do with it. But if I went and got one, could I have one potentially to put? Can you pour it into your own car?
that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
of
Yes,
it,
I thought
yes.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or into other
Who
equipment.
is Jerry?
Okay.
Into anything that needs fuel. Yes, they come with a little
And a little
reversible
nozzle can.
nozzle thing. Yes, yes.
Does-
Is it
does-
highly dangerous to have that flammable kind of fluid just sitting around?
If you're not durry munching next to it, no,
You're
not
fine.
Yeah.
particularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
If you don't put it next to
I'm
something,
not.
that will
The way
ignite
I
it.
sound like sounds like I was going to commit a crime and I was going to come in and commit a bit of an arson thing. But
How hard is it to douse someone and set them alight?
Oh,
yeah, because
God.
jerry
Yeah.
cans are used for that too sometimes.
yeah, I guess so.
if you put it into your flamethrower on Christmas Eve and barge into your ex's Christmas
Right,
party,
that was avgas. Yeah,
you could probably do some damage, but
What's
you know,
this?
you've got to be willfully wanting to do
That's
it
it.
a
another
movie?
story we've already done.
Sorry, in LA. Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
What's this? What?
I
Yes.
thought you were talking about a movie.
What is
Then I
this
was
that
like,
you're
is
talking
it,
about?
when you said Christmas Eve, I was like, is that a Bruce Willis movie?
Yeah,
literally did it for a
he
Christmas
did it in a
story.
Santa suit. Remember when
Yeah.
the little
Yes, I
kid answered
do.
the door and it was Santa?
I think
all
And he
coming
sometimes
shot her
the,
in the face and then went in and got
I
his
think sometimes the
flamethrower out.
I'm
technicalities
not
of the
laughing at
real
that she got
world.
shot in the face. It's the fact that you don't remember any of this. And we're
I
having to
remember none of
retell
it, but it's also things like practical things in the real world that I've still not done. I've never touched a jerry can. I've never had any cause to. I've never, like avgas, I don't know what the fuck that is. I've never put a thing on the barbecue.
Aviation fuel.
I've never put
Is
a
that
thing
jet
on the
fuel?
barbecue.
Is that the
Yeah.
same as jet fuel? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I thought it could refer to jet fuel. But again, it's stuff that exists around me and I've heard of it or whatever. I'm not completely, but because I'm not interested, it doesn't affect me, I don't really listen. And so then
don't
when you say
care
something like
for it,
that, yeah, I'm like, oh, how would you store that? Is it safe? And, it makes sense to me that you'd use it for, a lawnmower or your boat or whatever else. But I'm like, okay, I don't suppose you drive your lawnmower down and fill it up down at the station,
No.
do you? So, yeah, got it. Wow, I've learnt something. What an idiot I am.
It's
We
such
all
an
say this
informative
is such a
podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
show. That's
For
right.
simpletons like me, it's a brilliant education of the practicalities of real life.
Right. So I suppose that is good news. Thanks for that.
It is. I love it. Can you remind me the name of the lawn mowing business again?
Lawns and Order Special
Lawns and Order.
Maintenance Unit.
That is brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it.
I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee,
Oh, and Clarky, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
and that's it.
How did that happen?
The internet dropped out for a minute.
And
not
I'm
sure.
Clarky, and together we are
Trial
by
Wine.
Wine.
Goodness me. And what are we drinking?
Oh, I'm on my first Coca Zero for the day.
Coco Zero.
So we were talking about jerry cans earlier, Swanee.
Yeah.
Is it true they're considering bringing out Coke Zero in a jerry can to replace the Buddy?
A
Don't mess with
2 litre
me.
bottle is almost as bad as that, though. Like
It's
only
a road
big
tripper.
bottle.
That's disgusting. That is
a
disgusting.
20-litre road tripper, and you can all have a straw going into, like 5 common straws going
that
into
comes
it.
into my house when the kids buy pizza in the big bottle and they share the Pepsi stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't even like to have
She just showed
I
Swanee
know.
a picture of Pepsi.
a large Pepsi.
A buddy.
No, not a buddy.
Yeah,
Bigger
so
than that.
Oh, that was
Kryptonite.
a
It was bigger than a
big
buddy,
one,
wasn't
was
it?
it?
No, it was just
600 mil.
it was just close to the camera.
Was it a buddy?
Yep. Yeah, Pepsi buddy.
Oh, have some standards.
Have some
Jeepers.
decency.
At least pour it in a glass, put some ice in it or something. I mean, I can't handle you drinking out of that plastic.
No, we've got something else in our glasses.
So
What are you drinking?
we're
Yes.
having what we call leftover wine. You know that thing we sometimes talk about.
I'm surprised you
So
guys
we
never
went
have
out.
it.
Yeah, we don't normally. We went out for our anniversary, and then
Oh yes, I did
we
see
had a
that.
lovely lunch and wine. Then we decided we'd have another wine, so we bought another bottle. It was a Chrismont Rosato. It's very nice, but we thought we had to drive, so we drove home, and then we decided we didn't really need it. So
I
we didn't have
thought
it.
the photographs were gorgeous. Now I'm going back to have a look at them.
Yeah, they were.
I was looking at it very quickly, but where were you? It looked lovely. Here we go. And so
Lovely.
long
Chrismont is-
together. My God.
In the King Valley. Thanks for asking. I'm having a Sunkist with a bit of vodka in it. That's what I'm drinking.
Very nice.
It's like it's like nuclear orange. It's
Mm.
kind of like it.
It's very orange, isn't it?
Glows.
It's like Tang. Do you remember Tang?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
Tang.
yeah.
Mm.
I think
It's
you
got
can
a
still
tang.
buy
I don't
it.
think that we were allowed to have it.
Surely, no, it can't be good for you.
Tang or
It's
I've seen
Sunkist?
it on a
Tang.
supermarket
I don't think
shop.
we ever had it personally, but I was certainly aware
Too
of
much
it.
sugar, I'm sure.
Oh, we had it.
Tell me
yeah.
about. I wonder if my love of Diet Coke comes from my nana. Nana was like a proper diabetic, very, very skinny diabetic, not like a common,
Fat diabetic.
not like a modern day diet.
A modern day diabetic.
She was old school diabetic where she couldn't eat sugar and she was really sick, but she was allowed to have Tab. And so she would always have a
Oh,
can, and like maybe
Tab.
one can would be.
Yes.
There was always a
Tab.
can of Tab in my grandparents'
Was
fridge.
it Diet Tab?
I think it was just diet by virtue
Tab
of the fact
was
it was
just diet.
because it was diet.
It was
yeah.
Elle McPherson.
Was Tab
did
only
the-
diet?
I think so. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that was the
Oh,
point
I
of
didn't
Tab.
realise.
I don't even know
Right.
what it was now.
No.
I'm going to have to look
I
into
told
it.
you I missed the 80s.
Yeah, but I
wasn't
wonder
there.
if that whole thing.
I think it was
put
the 7th.
Nana was on
Missed
having a
that too.
Tab, and I'm on a diet.
Yeah,
Coke.
yeah.
Mind a
Okay,
Tab.
You
so-
come from a long
Again,
line
I
of
don't remember
tabbers.
having it. Maybe I was allowed to have a little
I
bit
did.
like on Christmas Day or something, a little treat part of Nana's Tab.
Mm.
Okay, I shall tell you a story.
Excellent.
And there's no murder in it. I went for one that was not murdery for once.
No murdering.
Wow.
My sources today are Wikipedia, postalmuseum.si.edu, which is also known as the
Did you just say
Smithsonian.
Postal Museum?
Yes, the Museum
Like a
of Postal
museum of
things.
news?
No, the Postal Museum, like the
Oh, I thought
Museum
you
of
said
Post.
museum.
Oh,
No,
Which I
museum.
thought, how
I might
brilliant is
have.
that? We need a museum.
Old Museum. No, the Old Museum has the old stuff and the museum has the new stuff. No, I might have said that because I did slur over it a little bit because I'm a bit tired. But no, postalmuseum.si.edu, which is AKA the Smithsonian National Postal Museum. And I thought you'd enjoy that because you always like when I bring the Smithsonian into
I
it.
do.
Sounds
Like
credible.
postal crime. Is that what we're going to look at?
We are. And it's called
They're always in
sorry.
movies, and I
Sorry.
never get it. Like, when I was a child, I'd be like, why is that a crime? That's a very
It absolutely
American
is.
concept to me, although I'm sure it's like the same
It's
here.
an American story.
Well, there you go.
There you have it, yes. Archives.gov, internationalbanker.com, not to be confused with
With a B?
something else. With a B, that's right. And bluetreesavings.com, where the author used Lego to illustrate the point to his readers, which I thought was sweet.
When you say used Lego, do you mean Lego
He
figurines,
made little,
or
yes,
he
he
actually
had
did it out of bricks?
both. He had Lego figurines, holder and bricks, and they were little scenes to demonstrate what had happened. It was very cute.
Oh, he's clever.
So I thought for today we could go back in the timey-wimey machine and also talk about someone who is so incredibly famous, and yet I don't think his story is that well known, to be honest, his actual story. And he's so famous that his name was turned into a verb, and his name is synonymous with a type of fraud. So based on those three things, you, of course, know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Sigmund?
Swanee will.
I didn't. What? Can you repeat it?
She wasn't listening. She's just had Diet Coke.
What? I thought you were starting to go somewhere, and then I was like, what? And then all of a sudden I
Oh,
was
no,
like,
she's just rambling and not
start
listening.
again. I knew someone
Is
who's
she
very
talking
famous.
about jerry cans again?
They were very
Extremely famous.
Extremely famous.
Name synonymous with a type of fraud,
Type of fraud,
and his name is so He's so
Ponzi?
famous for this. Yes, it's
Okay.
a fraud.
Yes, sorry,
That's
Ponzi,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes, it's a
No,
verb.
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I
Yes.
didn't hear that bit. I heard that.
You were right. I knew you'd know it. So
Of course.
I thought you said.
when it comes
Fonzie.
to fraud,
I've got no
I'm
idea
all
what a
over
jerry
it.
can's going to do, but Ponzi
Correct
scheme.
window.
Sure, I'm in. Yes, Carlo Pietro Giovanni Guglielmo Tebaldo Ponzi, aka Charles Peter John William Tybalt Ponzi, is the man who we're talking about today. Born in 1882 in Lugo, Italy, Carlo was born into a family that might have once had some money, but by the time he came into the world, it was pretty much all gone. His mother still used the title Donna, but there really wasn't much to support her highfalutin ways.
Doesn't that just mean woman?
No, it means
Yes.
lady.
Lady.
Oh, right. Got it.
So, Lady
Got it.
Ponzi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlo worked in the post office for a bit when he was quite young, about, from what I can gather, about 17, and then went to the University of Rome La Sapienza, although apparently he just followed his rich mates around for 4 years, going to cafes and the opera. So when he left, he had neither money nor a degree nor anything that will get him
Nor
money.
a clue.
That's right. It appeared, though, at the time that the idea of the American dream was alive and well. So in 1903, Carlo decided to go to America to make some money. Other young men from Italy had been doing the exact same thing, and his family wanted him to go and get rich and bring the money back to them because they wanted to live in the style that they should have been accustomed to before someone lost all the cash. Apparently that was true. They sent him off to make money for them.
I don't doubt that at all.
So Carlo, or Charles from here on out, set off to Boston on the SS Vancouver. He might have even quoted Pete Seeger at the time. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. In point of fact, he had $2.50 on him, which was about $90 in today's money.
Who's Pete
And
Seeger? Sorry. I know Bob
Yes.
Seeger.
For our listeners, I gave her an appropriately shocked and horrified face.
Oh.
You don't know who Pete Seeger is?
I don't think I do.
Okay, I should.
I don't know who Pete Seeger is.
American singer, songwriter, musician, left-wing social activist. He was a fixture on nationwide radio in the 1940s and had a string of hit records in the early 50s.
No.
Give us one of them.
No? I just
Give
sang
us
one
one of
for
the
you.
hits.
No.
You don't. None of you know who Pete Seeger
No.
is?
No, I'm
None
not
of us
familiar
do.
with the Pete Seeger back catalogue.
But give us one of his hits. Don't give us shocked faces. Give us one of his hits.
Did you not have any form of
Radio?
hippie families?
No.
Like
No.
parents?
No, I'm telling you, I know.
No.
Do you know who Bob
This
Seeger
is
is?
Give us
my
one of his
mum was
hits.
so
I
much
can tell you
older
about
than
Bob
all of you.
Seeger.
Yeah, I know Bob Seeger.
Tell me about Bob Seeger. Go ahead.
Tell me one of his hits. You're trying to find one
I
because
am,
you don't
I am.
know.
Well,
he
I
doesn't
know
have
that
hits.
song.
He
did
might have
have
released
hits.
a song. He doesn't
Hollywood
have hits.
Nights? What?
He recorded. He knew people like Bill Ives, Woody Guthrie. Come on, you know
Bill
who Woody
Ives, I
Guthrie
know.
is.
You can't.
see,
I
you
don't
know
wanna
Bill Ives there.
I don't want to know who he knows.
I know Burl Ives because he was Santa in a Rankin and Bass animated, Christmas.
Yes,
movie that I used to watch.
same.
And he was
Yes,
the little fat
yes.
Santa. Burl
Little fat
Ives.
Santa,
Yeah.
yes,
Maybe it was a
yes,
Christmas tree
yes.
or no, he was a snowman.
All right, so I'm finding his songs. He didn't write Kumbaya, but it
Night
looks like he
Moves.
recorded it.
That's what we should be doing. Bob Seeger, Night Moves.
Night Moves. Oh, that's Bob Seeger. Pete Seeger. I can't find anything, but he was a folk singer.
Yeah,
I can't
think
believe
it's
you
quite
never heard
okay
of
that
him.
nobody
Folky.
knows him. You can't say you can't believe it.
Do you
We shall
think-
Because you've-
overcome.
Do you think it
We
might be
shall
because your
overcome.
family was a bit more highbrow than mine, if you're familiar with it from home, are you?
I would say they were obviously a little. Well,
I think
they
if-
were older, and so Mum definitely had a bit of flower power in us in it, like that
Oh, no, we had
60s,
none of
70s
that.
thing.
We were definitely
So I think that's. We definitely listened. We listened to. Well, Donovan, but that was a bit later. And what's the other guy that everyone loves? Bob Dylan. When Bob Dylan
Oh,
was,
no.
Okay.
young
Yeah.
folks.
we were doing
I think-
sexy time, Rod Stewart and
Oh
I
no,
think
Arnie,
he-
Arnie Helga
Yeah,
introduced
all
us
that
to
kind of-
ABBA, but
all
before
that's
that,
us. That was my house.
all we had was bloody
Bob
folk.
Seeger, but
So
yeah.
Woody Guthrie,
No,
we
not
had all
us.
that. And then Dad, however, never progressed past the 1940s, and he only listened to Glenn Miller
Oh,
and
that's quite nice.
big
though.
band stuff.
That's
so it'd be
nice.
either big band stuff or folk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that was lost on you. Oh well. Hopefully it's not lost on absolutely everyone who's one of our listeners. It was about $90, and he'd lost most of the rest of the money that he had because he'd been gambling on board. He said to himself, "I landed in this country." Sorry, he said himself.
You landed in what?
On this. I landed on this.
It's an
My
unfortunate
Lord.
place to stop, wasn't it? He said himself, not he said to himself, I landed in this country with $2.50 in cash and $1 million in hopes, and those hopes never left me. He worked some pretty menial jobs. At first, he was a dishwasher, and then he worked his way up to being a waiter. And he even talked about how he slept on the floor. He was so broke, and he learned English at the
Slept
same
on the
time.
floor of what?
The restaurant, I think, where he was working as a waiter, I believe.
Waiter.
Yes, but that's what it was inferred
I mean, I've
in what I'd
slept on
read.
the floor before.
Me too. Generally drunk
Come on,
or
Ponzi.
camping. Unfortunately, though, he did lose the job as a waiter, even though he'd worked his way up to get there, because he was fired for theft and ripping the customers off.
Oh.
Gateway, gateway.
Okay.
So Boston is a bust for him, and he ends up struggling in the US for a few years, and then he heads up to Montreal, where for some reason someone decided to give him a job as an assistant bank teller, a man who loses his job for ripping off customers and stealing,
Yeah.
in the Banco Zarossi. The bank was started by Luigi Zarossi, and it was specifically for the loads of Italian immigrants who were moving to Montreal at the time. I'm guessing that our old mate Charles was one of those chaps who could spin a good yarn, and he spoke obviously fluent French and Italian as well as English, which would have been handy as a customer services person for the Italian community, and of course in Montreal. Whilst he's doing better for himself in Montreal, the bank he's landed in is another kettle of fish. Mr. Zarossi is offering a 6% interest on deposits, and to quote Evita, the money kept rolling in from every side.
I was about to say who's Evita, and then I realised you said Evita. Is that where I'm getting my Argentinian reference there?
I did say Evita, but I probably said Evita.
That's what I thought you
was
said.
being very lazy.
Okay,
yes.
that's all right. Is that I've got my correct reference point there?
Yes, you
Good,
have.
'cause again, never
You've
watched it.
Nailed
Yet.
it. Well, when you say never watched it, one day when it's touring on the stage, that's when you should see.
I remember my
watch it.
parents went and saw it when I was a
Evita.
child in Sydney.
Same. My parents
Don't
saw
go
it.
and see the movie
In
with
fact-
Madonna.
Don't see the movie
It was
with
a
Madonna.
big deal when I was little.
It was, and it was touring Australia.
Yes.
And I was also little because my mother took me to see it. It's the first
Oh.
musical I ever saw. And there I was sitting under the fort at primary school teaching everyone to sing the requiem, the funereal requiem, because she's just died of cervical cancer.
Oh.
Oh.
The things that
Cute little
musicals do
Caroline.
for you. Yes, there I was. Don't cry for me, Argentina. That's right. Anyway, to quote Evita, before she died of said cancer, the money kept rolling in from every side. Charles had been promoted to bank manager, so he had a prime position to see what was happening. So basically, Zarossi has told everyone, I'll give you 6% return on your deposits. So they're all depositing their money. And what was actually happening was Mr. Zarossi was, of course, paying out the interest by using the new deposits. So if you came in, I'll give you a 60-day turnaround on it.
It sounds like
Carla.
a Ponzi scheme.
Well, this is the point. It is a Ponzi scheme. He didn't invent it.
The
No.
It should be called a Zarossi scheme
OG.
because
Yeah.
he just copies it later
Exactly
on.
right.
Similar.
It is kind
similar,
of unusual
similar.
when you think about how I speak of Italians, but I think I speak to a larger European community. They would have been quite suspicious of that sort of banking. They must have had a sizable return for them to entertain not keeping the money under their mattress, that kind of
Beds,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also it was established by an Italian for
True.
Italians.
That's true.
And that
That'll
would be
what it
why
Less
Ponzi got the
suspicion.
job,
Yep.
because he could speak Italian. He was an Italian guy from Lugo,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
It was all about keeping in community,
That
and we
makes
should be able to trust
that makes
this
a lot
guy.
of sense. Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say otherwise,
yeah.
I just can't imagine that they would be entertaining it. But that makes perfect sense.
And like the scheme that I described, the initial people who came in would have got their returns. They would have
Yes.
gone back into community and
Gone,
said,
wow.
yeah, it works. It's amazing. I got 6%. Yeah. Invest your money with Zarossi,
Yeah.
right? That's how it works. So just like all the various pyramid schemes we have seen over the years, legal or otherwise, the new investors were funding the old investors, which only continues to work if the base of the pyramid grows quickly enough to pay out the rest of the structure. And when I say pyramid schemes that we've seen that are legal or otherwise, I can think of, I'm pretty sure, Tupperware,
What's the
What was
classic
that?
one? That,
the one with the
Christopher
cleaning
Skates.
products.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I do.
Enzo?
Amway.
Amway.
Way.
Yeah.
I knew it started with an A. That was what
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
trying to think
That's
of.
what
That
I,
was
yeah.
Yeah.
Nutrimetics, all of those sort of
Yep.
party plan things
Yeah.
where you've got to sign up a friend to also become a salesperson and flog a certain amount of product, etc. So it's the same sort of thing, but they were legal pyramid schemes too. So Charles could have seen this and thought, shit, man, that's dodgy stuff. Even when the bank went broke and Mr. Zorossi hightailed it to Mexico, doing a runner on his family, customers and Charles actually hung around and looked after the family because the bank guy owner just pissed right off. Charles didn't think to himself, blimey, what a dodgy business that was. How murky, how bad. I should never do that again. It's lucky no one's blaming me and putting me in jail. Ooh, that was a close call. No, he didn't seem to think that at all. Because as he had no money after all of this, he, of course, was just as affected financially as everyone else by the con. He went out and committed check fraud.
Is that something to do with the country or to do with
Is this where the postal thing is going to
paper?
come in?
So what he did, he wrote a check.
Mhm.
So he went to one of the bank's customers and he went to their offices. No one was around. So he just ambles on into this place and sees a checkbook, writes himself a check for 458 cents, which seems like a strangely random number.
Yep.
But it's also in today's money worth about 15 grand.
Whoa.
And forged the signature of the company directors, Damien Fournier. He forged his signature and went off and had a nice little spending spree, Yana. And the police were watching him.
Spending frenzy, Yana.
It was a frenzy, Yana. Yeah.
Don't know this.
It's another fast forward, is it?
Oh,
It's
like
Magda
Yana Van.
Zabansky. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They had, what's her name? Mark
Downey.
Downey pretending to be, was it Mark Downey doing
Yeah,
Yana
Yana.
Vent?
Was she?
She was Yana Vent, and Magda Zabansky and one of her sidekicks came in and they were talking about how they'd won the lottery and that they'd had this spending frenzy, Yana. And it was like we spent $3 on an air freshener. It wasn't much of a spending frenzy is the punchline of the joke. The other, when the mum's house all settled and everything was done, Tony and I had a spending frenzy. We went to TK Maxx and bought 2 bins. And then I rang my sister and
Calm
said,
down.
I've had a spending frenzy. I bought 2 bins. That's right. Okay. So the police were watching him, though, because he did have a spending frenzy, Yana. And when they saw he was out there having a good old time spending cash, they walked up to him and said, "Oi, you're nicked."
Gov.
And he, what do you think he did? He just put his wrists out and said, "Yeah, I'm guilty."
Oh, I thought it would
Straight
at least
away.
run, go on the lamb or something.
No lamb for this fellow. No, just was arrested and he did 3 years at the St. Vincent de Paul Federal Penitentiary. And I'm pretty sure
Wonder what he was
that would have
wearing.
been quite unpleasant. Yes. He was
Second-hand clothes.
He's going to a party,
clothes.
going to a fancy dress
He's
party every
wearing second-hand
Wow, I
clothes.
love your flares. Whoa.
Where'd you get that gold lame from?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My goodness. Polyester is
I
your
got
fabric.
it from the commiss. Yeah, yes. Or shoes that have been broken in a bit too much.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it was unpleasant, though, not just because they had to wear op-shop clothes. Still, he had a thing for keeping up appearances.
He's
Or
Italian.
he was worried about, exactly, or he was worried about the shame he might have brought on his family because he wrote to his mother saying he was special assistant to a prison warden rather than a prisoner. Or maybe he was a special assistant to a warden. And history has missed the euphemism. So, 1911, he's a free man again. Of course, when he left the dingy St. Vinny's prison, he immediately vowed never to do anything deceitful or illegal again. Of course not. Just kidding.
I was going to say, shit vow.
Pretty much immediately started to smuggle illegal Italians over the US-Canada border and got nabbed by 1911 equivalent
ICE.
of ICE. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Lucky he didn't get shot.
He was. Another 2 years in a prison in Atlanta, but this stretch wasn't too bad. He actually did do some work for the warden in this particular prison. And look, he might have helped the warden in the last prison. He was quite good because of his skills with language. And in this one, he did some translating. Sorry, he translated letters from the mobster Ignazio the Wolf Lupo, which, by the way, given Lupo actually means wolf. I feel is a pretty stupid nickname. I mean, it's Ignazio the Wolf the Wolf.
The wolf.
Yeah. Or Ignazio Lupo, depending on which way you want to put it.
Crazy.
Anyway,
Charles took the opportunity to get chummy with Lupo at the same time. He was also really impressed by Charles W. Morse, who had been a Wall Street big shot, but also a complete charlatan, who got out of prison early saying that he was crook, but he'd actually been eating soap shavings to feign his illness. Yes.
Wonder what illness that would create.
For
Symptoms.
frothing at the mouth, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Did-
maybe.
Wash your dirty mouth out. He couldn't swear.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I would say foam at the mouth. Now, I found this next bit a very strange little footnote. He gets out of jail this time, and he goes to work in a mining camp back in Boston. And don't ask me based on what credentials, but he ends up working as a nurse. And while he was there, another
His caring
nurse,
demeanour.
I don't know, but this is really interesting. Another nurse, whose name was Pearl, was involved in a terrible accident and got really severe burns. And I have no idea why, but then Charles Ponzi volunteered to provide the skin from his back and legs for Pearl for her skin grafts, which resulted then in him getting pleurisy and other illnesses and losing his job, probably because he had no skin on his back and he was quite sick. Also, he didn't even know
Sounds
her
like
and he
a
didn't
lot.
get paid for it.
Did he spill the petrol on her or whatever it was?
He's got a lot going on, this
Weird.
guy.
It's
Yeah.
just very
Busy.
strange.
One battle after another.
Well, the other thing that got me, I had a little argument, well, not argument, but I was saying it can't be right. On Wikipedia as the source, it said that he had donated 720 square centimetres of his skin.
Sorry? How
It
much?
sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
Could you repeat that?
720 centimetres. It's 26 by 26, I think, if you do the square root of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it just sounded, why would you say 720 square centimetres as a measurement? It sounds like he's given metres and metres of his skin.
acres.
I'm like, he doesn't have that much skin, surely. Anyway, I got a little bit hooked on that fact.
Was it only one layer of it? Because there's like 7 layers of your skin.
Yeah, but it's 1911. Like, how precise would they have been removing his skin? It's for, and I'm assuming it was for a graft.
Excuse me.
Yes, exactly. It sounds terrible. That's the right response there. Anyway, so at the same time, though, while he's in the mining camp, he comes up with a brilliant business idea. He thinks he should go to another mining camp and set up their power and water, because for some reason they don't have any, and then monetize it by selling stock for it. So create basically their power facilities. And again, I'm not really sure based on what. He's not an engineer. You know, he's not an electrician, but he's an ideas man. That's what he is. He's an ideas man.
Yeah, and
Now, I
he
don't-
is a
Yeah.
confidence man.
He had these ideas
La
were
confidenza.
genuine. They were genuine ideas.
No, but he wasn't a nurse.
Well, it was 1911, and so when was World War One? I don't think there would have been many people around anyway at this point, right? So World War One finishes in 1917, 18? Can't remember when
14
it
to-
started.
Is it
Oh,
14?
14, was it?
Think
So
so.
I'm just going to hazard a guess that he went up and then someone said, "Are you a first aider?" And he said, "I can
Oh,
put
yeah.
Band-Aid on." And they're like, "You're
Yeah.
our nurse."
I
done."
can do that.
I can do that.
Yeah, exactly. So now I don't think that he actually managed to get that business idea off the ground because he was too busy lying on his face, giving his skin away. And I don't also think, as I said, that he donated the skin for free. So it wasn't like he was selling bits of himself to raise capital. So
Was Pearl thankful?
they didn't know each other. I don't know if Pearl
So bizarre.
ever heard from him again or knew anything about him. It was very odd, yes. I told you, very odd
Did
footnote.
Pearl go on to live a happy life? A long and happy?
Probably
happily
died
ever
of
after?
septicemia. I
was
have
gonna say
no
probably
idea what happened to her.
pleurisy.
Probably not.
Well, he got pleurisy. She probably got septicemia.
Oh, I've had
no
pleurisy.
idea.
That wasn't fun.
Goodness me. It sounds like such a third world disease. But
It
my
was called
sister's had it
first year
too.
at uni.
It sounds,
was called.
it sounds
There you
like
go.
more than one.
Yeah.
In 1918, he then meets and marries a woman called Rose Necco. She was a stenographer and her family were fruiterers in Boston. He had and I'm pretty sure she's Italian. He had an idea to sell advertising in a business listing, which sounded like the Yellow Pages,
Mhm.
that would be sent to other businesses. But no one wanted that at the time, so it failed. Then he also took over Rose's family's fruit shop, and that also failed.
Oh.
Like many an entrepreneur, he just had to fail fast and move on, and maybe someday one of his ideas would work.
Reinventing himself.
Oh, he's an entrepreneur. Then in 1919,
Here we go.
he gets the big idea.
Cha-ching.
He's an ideas man. I'm telling you, he's an ideas man.
Straight to the pool room.
So he had this little office in Boston from where he was trying to sell his business ideas to some of his European contacts. A company in Spain sent him a letter showing interest in his advertising listing. You know, that thing that I just talked about, the Yellow Pages. And they included an international reply coupon. So a bit like a reverse charge phone call, the international reply coupon allowed a person to pay for an expected reply.
Prepaid
So
envelope.
pretty much prepaid envelope, yep. Back in the day when it wasn't cheap or fast to communicate with people, it would reduce someone's likelihood also to ignore your letter if you'd basically paid for them to answer you. Do you get me?
No.
Yep.
I do.
So if I've spent good blunt sending you a letter and I've sent you a replied paid envelope so that you can easily reply to me, it puts the onus and in manners on you to reply to me. So
Yeah.
the Spanish people like, tell me more. And so here's a replied paid coupon for you to do so. Charles starts to think about that international replied coupon and he thinks, hang on a minute, when they bought that in Spain, because it's the war, we're now in 1919, so the war's finished, World War I's finished. The exchange rate is such and that Europe's economy is so fucked from the war that he knows that what they pay for it in Europe is worth a lot less than what he could sell it for in the US. So he has this idea and he starts thinking, if I can get my hands on as many international reply paid coupons as possible, or reply coupons, I can redeem them in the US and then I can sell them as stamps here, I'm guessing, and I'll make all this money. It's genius, absolute genius. And it's actually quite legal also. So he decides he could make, and I'm not quite sure where he got this from, a 400% profit, net profit, not just profit, net profit. So he dumps his job as a translator and hits the pavement, heading into banks to ask them to give him money to stake his brilliant idea. However, not everyone was that easily swayed, and basically none of the banks gave him any money for it. They were like, dumb idea. So he sets up a stock company to raise money from everyday Joes, and he hits up some of his mates saying he'll pay double their investment in 90 days. And just like that, some people give him their money and they get the returns that they were promised. And on it went. In 1920, he'd set up his own company called the Securities Exchange Company. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He had, at the outset, 18 people invest and paid, and so that was about $1,800 at the time. So it's about $100 a person. And he paid them their dues the next month from money from a new 18 investors. And the pyramid grew. He set up a bigger office. He hired more people to acquire more investors.
Do you
paid them
just
good
invest
commissions.
once at the outset?
You invest and you reinvest is what happens. So
Yeah.
I give you $100. You
Yeah.
give me, say he said to double it, right? So you give me
200 back.
200 back. And I go, this is good. So I give you 200. Then you give me
Right.
400, et cetera, et
Okay.
cetera. So a lot of people were putting the money back in because
Yeah, they were
on
getting it.
paper they were
Yeah.
getting this huge return. So he sets up this big office. He goes basically interstate, I think, or, really spreads out. And he's paying people as salespeople and he's giving them commissions. Does it sound familiar? It's basically a pyramid scheme. The pyramid grows rapidly.
Sounds more like a Ponzi scheme.
By March 1920, so it kind of started roughly in February, the total the total amount of money that was invested had gone from $5,000 to $25,000. And remember, this is old time money too.
This is when 400 and something dollars was 15,000.
15 grand. That's right. So by May, it was 420,000.
Wow.
And by
Jesus.
June 1920, it was a staggering $2.5 million, which would be around $40 million in today's coin. By July, he was turning over $1 million a day in investments. So people were bringing in $1 million a day. Yep.
How many people would he have would be investing? Do you know?
Thousands.
You've got to be getting like
most of
double the investors every
Massachusetts.
day to keep it going, don't you? Like,
And then,
because
that's
you're
right.
paying it out. Yeah. And Dan.
And Dan.
And Dan.
No more and Dan.
Here's $20.
Well, you see, you're
Here's
not
$40
paying it all
and Dan.
You're
I
not
think-
paying it all
$40.
out. That's the point that Carla just made. You pay out some, and then when people get confidence, on paper it looks like they're going to be able to come out with
Yeah, they
loads.
reinvest it.
But where is the actual money? So yes, he was getting more investors in, but
the return that he was promising people was just on paper. And not, ironically, not necessarily, I don't think if I'm honest, I don't think he intended this. I don't think he actually intended to be a complete bullshit artist and rip everyone off. But just like Luigi Zarossi from back in the old Canadian bank days, and that's why it should be called a Zarossi scheme, not a Ponzi scheme, the scheme was bleeding cash. And Zarossi only offered, by the way, a 6% return on your investment, not a 100% or 400%, the crazy numbers he was saying. The only way to pay the older investors was with more and more investment, to your point, or to convince them to keep their money in and reinvest what they think they've got. So combining his previous careers with his current one, being working in the bank, he then went and put money into the Hanover Trust Bank of Boston in the hopes that he would have so much cash in his account that he could effectively take the bank over and be the bank president.
Cheapers.
And the company had opened
What could go wrong?
Well, also the company being the Securities, what I say it was
Exchange.
called? Securities
Exchange Commission.
Yeah, he expanded all these offices and investors were putting more and more money in and they weren't taking it out. So he was building this huge amount of money. So he's moving it into accounts in this Hanover Trust Bank of Boston, which is a small bank. And at one point he did get to a point where he clubbed together with a couple of rich mates and they did get a large enough share in the bank that they became effectively shareholders of the bank and controlling members of the bank effectively. And he just let the pyramid grow and grow. He wasn't trying to diversify revenue streams, which left the only way to feed the open maw of older investors, getting more investors in the door. So having started with the immigrant Italians, the clientele grew and expanded into the upper echelons of Boston society. Nearly 75% of the Boston police force, who weren't particularly rich, had invested in the scheme. 75% of the Boston police force.
God.
That's your Irish.
I feel
He
like
took
if you
money
screw them over,
from-
they'll come after you.
Oh, yeah. He took money from anyone and everyone. He took money from newspaper boys. If you wanted to give him a quarter, he'd take it. If you wanted to give him $10 million, he'd take it. He took it from...
headache trying to keep track of it all.
Well, that was part
It's
of the...
exhausting.
Down the line, you know, he had a strange like Rolodex card system. His record keeping was appalling, basically. So, and people were handing him cash, I believe. It's not like today where you do bank transfers, they're electronic. They were handing him cash and he would have been taking that cash and putting it into the other bank. And as it turns out, spending it too.
Could I ask a question? Where I think I get a bit lost is when they start off with the thing with Spain, is that still a thing?
Yes.
Is that still the premise of what's happening?
That's the proposition,
okay.
right? So he's saying that's how he can create these returns because that's the legal way that he's going to make the money.
Right.
Is by buying all of these international return coupons, selling them out at a higher rate than what they were bought for, and then cashing them in. So while getting the money in and paying people dividends from the pyramid was working fine for the ones who wanted the money out, right? He hadn't quite worked out how to get, to your question, and sell the international reply coupons. To make it work legitimately, he would have had to have acquired 160 million physical coupons. And they estimated at the time that there were 27,000 in circulation in the world. It simply was not possible to make the money on the scale out of the coupons. But it didn't stop 15,000 people by this time investing in the scheme. Unsurprisingly, he was living it up. He was having a great time. He bought a mansion and a fancy car, and he brought his mother out from Italy on a liner. And he finally gave La Donna Ponzi the life she had expected, even if it was entirely built on a house of cards. Fortunately for La Donna Ponzi, she died not too long after moving to the US to live with Rose and Charles. And
Did you say fortunately?
I just say fortunately because she didn't live to see it all come crashing down.
That's right. Well, yes, that's probably good for her.
She didn't die of any nefarious reasons. She just died of old age, I think. He did try a little bit to come up with a way to diversify. And this is what I mean. I don't think he was entirely dodgy, but I think it just got so out of hand.
I like that you say he did try a little bit.
He did. He bought
a lot.
No. But Wait until you hear what his publicist says of him, and you'll understand. He bought a macaroni company and part of a wine company, hoping to make legitimate profit for his investors. But unless he was buying the house of Chandon, I'm not sure how he thought he was going to get a business to turn a profit of $2 million per day to pay back the $1 million per day investment rate at that point. So now, not everyone was that gullible, and of course, a pesky journalist did the
Yeah.
basic maths and reported that they don't think there was really any way that Charlie Boy could make the kind of blunt he needed to on those stamps. However, given Charlie had lots of cash, he sued for libel and won $500,000 in damages, which is, of course, as we know, millions of dollars in damages. And that put paid to the press saying anything about him and his scheme, as they couldn't really afford the lawsuits for a bit. At one point, people did start to wonder.
What is a massive payout? back
$500,000,
then?
yeah.
Did it
Yeah.
get paid?
I don't
Or
know.
did it just bankrupt someone?
I don't think he bankrupted them. I think it's like here, where you sue someone for damages, and then they appeal, and it goes on, and then the lawyers make money, and you get 20 cents
Yeah.
later on. Like I often you hear these figures. I've been part of two class actions at the moment. That one of them apparently was settled last year for $70 million. And when I calculated how much I will make out of this class action with the number of people in it, it's something like $30. So I think, and probably the same with the other one. So I didn't start them, by the way. These were just, I got written to, said you're part of a class action. So I was like, okay, cool, fine. Let me know when you want my bank account details for my hot $30. But yes, I think with these things, the numbers sound good, but I don't know that you actually get them. So at one point, people started to wonder how he could have been flat broke and then suddenly, overnight, a multimillionaire. And that questioning led to a rush on the bank. And the only time I've ever seen anything about a rush on a bank is in It's a Wonderful Life. No?
Well,
Yes?
no, I've never watched it.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Bueller.
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 Cameron
Christmas
Fry.
one? The
Cameron
Christmas
Fry. The Christmas one, yes.
Yeah, no, I've never
No?
watched it.
Right, okay.
I think I've seen a modern version of it, but
It sounds like it wasn't a wonderful life.
I know people love it. I
The whole
understand that.
point is that things go badly. There's a rush on his savings and loan, and he
Oh, like a wonderful
contemplates-
life.
It's a Wonderful Life, which is what I've just been talking about. Anyway, and the other one is, of course, Mary Poppins. And if you say you haven't seen Mary Poppins, there's something wrong with both of your
I've
childhoods.
seen Mary Poppins.
No, we've
I've
seen
seen Mary Poppins.
and the musical.
Remember, there's a
I'm not
rush on
sure
the
about
bank.
the relevance, but
No, I don't remember that.
There's a rush on the bank. The kid
A
is
Russian
demanding.
bank?
No, the kid demands. I think the little boy, the bank manager's
Banks
kids
is
go
there, isn't
in.
it?
on with
And
the
they-
story.
No, he demands thing, and then people go, "Give me my money." The bank won't give us the money. All these people flood in. That's exactly what a rush on the bank looks like.
At the
right?
opening?
The show that I'm thinking of is the one with that lady and the umbrella. I don't know what the fuck you're thinking of.
That's Mary Poppins.
It is
Yeah,
Mary
but did that-
Poppins. I don't know
At the
what you
beginning, are you
watched.
talking about?
Mine's
No, it's at the
different.
end. It's at the end. Yeah.
Mine's
It-
different.
It basically ruins Mr. Banks' career, and he goes flies a kite. But anyway, because he realizes family's more important than the career, apparently.
I can't even remember that, but I have seen it.
The important point, though, apart from the fact that they're two fictionalized stories about a rush on a bank, is that people literally rush into the bank and demand their money back.
Right.
And these are banks that we're talking about held a certain amount of cash.
Yeah.
It didn't have, like
The
now, if I
entire-
ran into
You'd be
you know,
screwed now.
savings and loan and said, "Give me all my money out," you don't have that kind of cash. And they didn't either. Also, banks invest money into other things to get investments back, right? So they just don't have it. It literally breaks the bank. And the Securities Exchange Company had
Broke
a
the
rush
bank.
on it, right? So how does old Charles manage it? He stands out the front and he says, no problem. You want your cash back? No problem. And he hands them back their money. Not all of them, of course, but enough
Was that
people...
Italian?
It was, yes. Enough that people say, that's okay, actually, he's giving us the money, so this story about him must be bullshit, so we'll just walk away from it. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. And then the Boston Post, being the paper, made it worse by then they printed him a story about him saying how he was fantastic. What an amazing,
Oh,
don't ask me
God.
why. And then more investors come in and give him more money. But other people from the Post are still questioning this, and the journos aren't done. And the Boston Post acting publisher, Richard Grozier, and his father-in-law, I think, owned the actual paper and was on holiday at the time. And the city editor, Eddie Dunn, they were like, this is just bullshit. This can't be right. So they put some investigative reporters on the case. And he was also being investigated by authorities in Massachusetts who interviewed him, and he was like, I stop taking the money while you fellas work at this, okay, capiche, va bene? Which actually worked because the police were like, oh, you're not going to keep taking investment while we're looking into you. You must be okay. Fine then.
That'll do.
It
Case
honestly
closed.
didn't take much to, no problem. Va bene, va bene. So finally, the Post gets onto Clarence Barron, who headed the Dow Jones and Company.
Clary
and
Barry.
have you heard of them?
Dow Jones.
Dow Jones, correct.
Clary Barry.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Ever heard of them? Clarence did the maths and pointed out the infamous statistic that our old mate Charles would have needed 160 million coupons to make it work.
Yeah.
And the US Postal Service said, no, we don't have millions of those in circulation. And I read a statistic that said it would have been Titanic-sized ships full of coupons having to come into the country to actually be able to do this. Yeah. And even if he were doing it, even if he was getting Titanic-sized ships full of international reply coupons, the process to get one, convert it into a stamp and sell it on to make any profit would in fact cost you more to do than anything you'd make out of it. So it was impossible to have made the kind of money, make any money out of it, frankly. So, of course, by publishing these articles in their paper, the Boston Post caused another run on the Securities Exchange Company. This time, Charlie stands out the front buying people donuts and coffee and handing out in 3 days $2 million in cash to calm the crowd down and stop the run. And it worked. But by now the authorities were looking more closely at him, and they made him have a dreaded audit. And he hired a publicist, William McMasters, who later described him as a financial idiot.
No.
So I'm going to suggest that he wasn't actually a good PR dude. Well, certainly not for Charles Ponzi. In fact, he found documents showing that Charles was operating a pyramid scheme and dobbed him into the paper. His publicist completely sunk him, saying he didn't have $7 million, but it was actually $2 million in debt. And so I would have to say it was a colossally bad idea to hire William McMasters on Charles Ponzi's behalf. And I think the paper actually paid William McMasters $5,000 for that information.
To sing
like a canary, yes. Then, of course, the bank commissioner got worried that all these runs on the securities company would have an impact on the banking system. If everyone lost faith and withdrew all their savings, it would force a recession and it would kill the banks. Then he discovered that Charles had been receiving loans from Hanover Trust, the bank largely controlled by Charles himself. This indicated he wasn't actually in the money, but was getting the bank to bankroll him. So again, he put some forensic accountants on the job. So he's getting loans. He's telling everyone Securities Exchange Company is full of money. He's receiving all this money. He's putting it into the trust, and then he's using the trust to bankroll the securities. Again, most likely to hand that $2 million out. Unsurprisingly, the forensic accountants came back and said, the main account is massively overdrawn. And so the bank commissioner, Joseph Allen, ordered the Hanover Trust to not pay any more money out of Charles's main account. And they got a bunch of investors together to lodge an involuntary bankruptcy filing. Then the Attorney General announced that there was little proof to support Charles's claims on the postal coupon scheme being a thing, and Charles got the audit report showing that he was actually $7 million in debt. And in today's money, that's $114 million. From February 1920 to August 1920. He went from $1,800 at the start to $114 million in debt.
What was the time period again?
6 months. February to August. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. He tried a last-ditch attempt at selling off some stuff to try and get some money, but it wouldn't ever have been enough. And the financial noose was well and truly around his neck by then. So Charles Ponzi, yes, go ahead.
Had he skimmed any money? Like, had he made anything off it at all? Or was it just a little 6 months of crazy?
It was a 6 month of crazy, but he had skimmed enough to buy a mansion and make get his mum to come over, and he bought a car, and
No, it's done then.
Yeah,
but not like Billy, like not.
I mean,
to
a
the
mansion in
tune,
those days is
exactly
not
right.
even.
So so it's not like he bought Guatemala or something. Like he didn't.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
He set up a
I
small
think it
nation
just-
for life.
It's what one might say spiraled out of control. So he surrenders like he did when he was younger. He surrenders to the federal authorities. Like when he held his wrists out for check fraud, he does the same thing. They come in and they go, mate, you're a fraudster. And he's like, this is all crap. And he's like,
It has got away from me.
You got me.
yeah, it has a bit, yeah. Umpo.
Was
Sending
that a midget
letters.
joke?
A French
it means
joke.
a little bit. It's
A little. No.
That's Italian.
Lumpo,
It's French.
dumpity-doo.
umper is the French, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I thought you were speaking
It's a
French.
midget joke.
Anyway,
A
they're
little
the
in French
same
is
thing.
umper.
They're
Yeah,
the
same
same
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Same
there you
thing.
go.
Same
It's
thing.
Oompa
I
It's an
wondered
Oompa
why you
Loompa
were saying
joke.
it in French, but I thought, oh, okay. I didn't realise it was similar in Italian.
I haven't spoken Italian properly for 100 years, as we can tell by the way I've carried on today. Umpo.
You haven't said
in-
coglione pipa once.
I haven't. It does. It means a bit. Unpo. I was correct.
Okay, yeah.
So, yes, a little bit of mail fraud. He was charged with mail fraud for sending letters to investors telling them that their investments had matured. And that was fraudulent because they hadn't matured, because there was nothing that he wasn't getting any money out of the international reply coupons. He was released on a $25,000 bail, which in my mind is pretty rude. Because then he was immediately rearrested on estate charges of larceny and had to pay another $10,000 bond. And I say it's rude because whose money is he using to bail himself out?
True.
Yeah.
And in today's money, that was $600,000. He didn't have any money. So they're charging him money from the people who's already ripped off. Then they withdrew bail anyway. They were like, oh, shit, actually, he's probably going to run away. So we better put him back in jail. So they withdrew it anyway. As it turned out, 5 banks were ruined due to the scheme in Massachusetts, and people lost an approximate $4
$1 million.
Charles faced life in prison, but Rose told him to plead guilty. So he did, to a single count, 1 count of mail fraud out of 86 counts. He said, I did one of them. Judge Clarence Hale, who declared before sentencing, here was a man with all the duties of seeking large money. He concocted a scheme which, on his counsel's admission, did defraud men and women. It will not do to have the world understand that such a scheme as that can be carried out without receiving substantial punishment. And what sort of substantial punishment should we expect? He got 5 years in federal prison.
How actually serve, yeah.
But wait, there is more. He served 3.5 years of that, 3.5 years. And when he got out, he was immediately indicted on state charges of larceny. And this, he was really upset by that, because he was pretty sure he'd done a deal that if he had pled guilty to one of the charges, which was a federal charge, the mail fraud, that they were going to drop the whole larceny thing. But the state were like, no, mate, we're not done with you. And he's like, well, I'm going to sue you. So he did. He sued the state because he was pretty sure that he'd get away with it. But they said, no, my friend. And he was tried for another 10 counts of larceny.
Ooh.
In a staggering turn of events, he did the old psychopath thing of representing himself.
Genius.
Well, not because he thought he was cleverer than everyone, because I think by this time we realise he's not, but because he was poor and he couldn't afford an attorney. Yeah. And as it turned out, he was quite charming because the jury acquitted him.
Oh.
Not to be
Wow.
outdone, however, the state, who were not happy about that turn of events, tried 2 more times to get him banged to rights. And eventually, 1922, he was banged to rights, and they gave him a 7 to 9 years sentence as just a common and notorious thief. That was the charge. So, not one to ever give up, though. He got out on bail in 1925, and he ran off to Jacksonville, Florida, where he tried to start a land investment business that would give 200% returns in 60
Oh,
days.
for
Oh, my
God's
my
sake.
Strangely, he got caught and was sent down for another year, but appealed and paid a $1,500 bond, and off he went again. Only he had actually broken his bail, remember? So then he went to Tampa and he got picked up by a sheriff who sent him back to Massachusetts to do his time, and he did serve another 7 years. He was released in 1934 and was deported, and there was a whole lot of shenanigans about this, but he was deported to Italy. Rose gave up on him and divorced him in 1937. She was not going to go back to Italy, which is just as well because World War II was about to break out too. And he was a broke ex-con, so she said, piss off, I'm staying in Boston, and she did. He ended up, though, in Brazil, and he had a heart attack in 1941, which left him quite weakened. He died in 1949 in a charity hospital in Rio de Janeiro. So basically he died a pauper. Before he died, he gave one interview to a reporter and he said, even if they never got anything for it, it was cheap at that price. Without malice aforethought, I had given them the best show that was ever staged in their territory since the landing of the Pilgrims. It was easily worth $15 million to watch me put the whole thing over. Or, to quote the musical Barnum, there is a sucker born every minute. Each time the second hand sweeps to the top like dandelions, up they pop, their ears so big, their eyes so wide, though I feed 'em bona fide baloney with no truth in it. Why, you can bet I'll find some rube to buy my corn, 'cause there's a sure shooting sucker born a minute. And I'm referring to the minute you was born. And that is the story of Charles Ponzi.
Bravo.
Oh, wow.
The verb now used to describe dodgy pyramid schemes. There you go.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting.
you-
I've often looked at doing Bernie Madoff and I've gone, no. But there you go. I think that's sort of,
Now, that's interesting because Madoff came up, and by all means, go right ahead.
no.
His crime was staggering in terms
Oh,
of
yeah.
the amount. So
Yeah.
comparative. So 400 million in today's money is Ponzi.
Yeah.
He was billions. Bernie
65
Madoff,
billion, I think it is. Yeah.
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 There you have it. No, and honestly, as I read it, there's something about the time as well. Like you've got
Yeah.
the war, you've got the depression, you've got another war, you've got these people just hustling and, just
Totally. It was how information was
it's
shared
just-
and how you'd get news and how you'd find out about what was going on. It'd very sort of be hard to get any real visibility on some of the stuff that was happening. I mean, crimes now more complex in many ways, but the simplicity of some of this stuff is what makes it so successful because
this is just
they
extraordinary. He
can't
just told
see
some
what's going on.
people, I'll make
Smoke and
some
mirrors.
money.
Yeah, no one believed him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because all my friends
Okay.
said it as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and I've seen
yeah.
it.
It's
I've seen him
Bitcoin.
paying out cash. Yeah.
But it's sort of
Exactly.
Bitcoin, and I didn't make the reference in it because I didn't have the time to go down that rabbit hole. But I was like, this is just all of these sort of cryptocurrency type things, and you can make all this money on it. And I'm sure some people do, but when does the bubble burst? This was so fast.
That's insane. The speed
It was
with which
extraordinary.
those numbers were reached.
It was extraordinary. Yeah. So, and I'd heard the expression Ponzi, and in some ways I had a Ponzi scheme. I had envisaged him as a much more evil kind of person. I just, and yet when I did this, I just thought, he's just a chancer. He's a con man.
Yeah.
He's
they
a bit
never
of a con
change.
man. But
I
I
find that
don't even think that he was trying to be evil in any way.
No.
He was just, shit, that got out of hand and I'll just keep doing it. And when he gets called for it, he's like, yeah, straight away. Does
Yeah.
his time too, like apart from
Oh,
Better
God, yeah.
bail dodging, but he does his time in jail.
I suspect they must get to a point, even though they're so deluded, these people who do this sort of stuff is then it's beyond. Like they've tried all these different things in the way to hold the dam back, so to speak, in terms of the public coming going, what about this? What about that? But I mean,
And I'm
it's
pretty sure
normally,
at some point they just blame the victim too. They'll be like, well, you're trying to get rich
Yeah.
quick. It's not my fault.
Oh,
you
that
know?
is a common thing that people say, and that's why when these things happen, everyone goes, "Oh, didn't you check, or didn't you do this, or whatever else?" But I mean, and certainly with Bernie Madoff, there were a lot of very rich people who lost an awful lot of money. They had huge sums of money, their entire life savings, or whatever else, which but vast sums. So people don't have much sympathy for people who are rich to start with, but I have seen things, and that's why I've never done it, is because a lot of the stuff that I have seen, not recent years, certainly not long after it happened, I used to see stuff where it would be documentary style about the victims and how they were affected. And so many older people always, they lose everything. They leave nothing left to their kids. That's a really common older couple, worked all their life. They've got to be like the number one victims who then think, if we just do this, we'll have enough for our retirement. We can leave a little bit for the kids and we can do this with the grandkids. No one's bad, right? But they end up losing so much. It's just terrible.
He was even taking money from like the newspaper boys.
I mean, the policemen's a bold
and the
one.
Policemen,
because they would be predominantly, Irish Catholic police
in Boston.
In Boston, no one fucking with them. But they would have been scraping their money together to to be
Tom
included.
Selleck's ancestors.
Yes,
isn't he?
I didn't know that.
No, they're not.
Oh.
He's in a Boston-based TV.
Blue Bloods. Yes, my mum watches it. Yeah, my mum watches it. Yeah,
Tom Selleck with that moustache will come get you.
Yeah. Oh God, I think
I know it was a bold move, but he didn't care. It's just give me your money, I'll take it. Yeah,
yeah. Madoff was certainly the same.
It's extraordinary.
Everybody's welcome. Everybody's money is welcome. Just bring it because they need it, right, to try and keep it moving,
to keep it afloat effectively. Yeah. On another note, do you know this one? For every season, turn.
Yep.
Pete Seeger, my friends.
All right, okay.
Oh, you finally got one.
I did. I thought I'm doing him such
very nice.
That was terrible. No, I was doing it just service to poor old Pete Seeger not being able to say anything.
I know. Well, that's better. You've redeemed
apart
yourself.
From the one I actually quoted to start with.
Oh, yeah. God knows what that was. But that wasn't ringing any bells for me.
Well, no, because whilst you knew who Bill Ives was because of the 1970s or 1960s, whatever it was, funny little
and also Jeremy's
animated
grandfather
thing.
Was a spitting image of Bill Ives. So there's a picture of him smiling that we have downstairs, and every time I look at it, I still think Bill Ives.
Well, when I was a child, my mother bought this record, and it was by a man called Franciscus Henry. And he was a folk singing type person. He's now turned himself into an entertainer and calls himself Mr. Whiskers. But we had this one album called Ding Dong. And on Ding Dong, it had that song about, basically the Pete Seeger song that I referenced.
Mm-hmm.
When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. Got myself a wife and I did what I could. It's a cute song. But I thought I'd do the right thing and reference the correct person who wrote it. Expecting you to know who it was, but never mind.
I've just looked up Bill Ives.
It's okay to let go of things sometimes.
Well, this was a timey-wimey machine episode, and we're going through the decades on this one. There's a bit of we reminisced about Tab. We've reminisced about all sorts of things. What do you think in terms of appropriate sentencing for someone who does this sort of thing? Certainly not a victim.
Not 5 years.
Crime. No, that was outrageous. But I wonder if it was 5 years because then they expected him to get done for larceny, which may have, he got 7 to 9 in the end. But I wonder whether or not they thought larceny would give him a bigger term. I don't know.
I don't think you should base your sentence on the hope that you'll get a
He's
better
going to
one
get done
from someone
later
else.
on. Yeah, true. Yeah. And he was facing life imprisonment too. So to get 5 years was just weird.
Mm.
Especially when the judge is going, a man like you who's set up and done this, you need to be properly punished.
I think it's interesting because, there's that whole buyer beware thing. So, yes, people lost a lot of money. Yes, he was saying the wrong things. I think back then it would have been very hard to know any different because he's the OG.
Yeah.
I think nowadays, if it seems too good to be true.
It probably is.
It probably is, yeah. So I think that's why it's hard to be...
Cross with him?
No, not cross with
not
him. I think from a victim's point of view, there is a little bit of onus on them and it doesn't detract from the horror of losing your entire life savings.
But if you gave him your entire life savings...
I think nowadays, if you're going, I can double my money in 12 months, you're gambling. You're not investing.
Yes, yeah.
And if you put it all on, black or red at the casino, it's a similar kind of thing. You could lose it all.
Absolutely. It's like when you buy a Daimler in the UK and you don't think to get a mechanic to look it over before you import it to another country and then discover it's a rust bucket and waste $30,000 on it.
Tony Slur?
Yes, that was a Tony Slur. Yes.
When did he?
When we went to England, he bought this car. And
last year? Was it
when we went in, whenever we went, yeah. And
I saw it too. It's a very fine-looking vehicle. I assumed incorrectly that some due diligence would have been done. I heard it went to a mechanic, but it
What did I
didn't.
used to do when I worked at the AA? There used to be a product that I used to promote, and it was like a car buyer's check or something like that, where they
Yeah.
would do all the things. Yeah.
And
I
it
thought
was
it was-
like,
yeah.
it's got an MOT, blah, blah, blah. Turned out the entire bottom of it was rusted. So it would have required about $30,000 of welding just to get it safe. So
Oh.
it's now at Gray's Online being auctioned off for about $3,000. That's buyer beware, right?
Ponzi.
Wasn't a Ponzi. It was, to your point, the victim
Bit of onus on the
didn't do
yeah,
any
due
due diligence because the woman who sold it had some like Order of the Queen or something, not related, anything to do with the car or anything, but apparently that just made him think that she was trustworthy. And this is the thing. And she wasn't actually a con woman. I was there. She didn't con us. She showed us the car. You know, I assumed that we would have had his son picked it up. I assumed the son would have organised to have someone look it over. There's supposedly people who do car things. Anyway, you live and learn. Bad investment, write it off.
Yeah. But it doesn't detract from the horror of losing
30 grand. Well, I knew it was 12. I only found out it was 30 later.
But you do kind of go, you know, there's precedence for this stuff.
Someone's
Anyway.
not as good as with the purse as you.
That's why we just had a spending spree, Yana, and bought 2 bins.
Well done.
Nothing else. Everything else went on the mortgage. Anyway.
Shapers.
But yeah, look, the point being that you're right, Clarkie, that there is a part of the whole crime isn't, they didn't force you to give your money away. No one forced you to do that.
I find it
you
worse
made a
when
choice.
people invest in legitimate
Yeah.
investments that aren't illegal and
Like
lose
super.
everything. Or like literally, like there are some super companies who go
Correct.
bankrupt
I agree.
and people
I
lose
agree.
everything.
Because they're not
And
given a
it's-
choice, right? A lot of the
You're
time.
right. It's legitimate. It's
I agree with
not
that.
them not doing their due diligence.
And
to
you
a
can't take it
degree.
out. Once you've put it in, you can't take it out either.
I mean, you can move
you
super
can move it
companies,
to
so
another
you can
super
do all
company.
of that.
That's right. Yeah.
But so you have to do research on even
Mm.
you know things that are substantial financial businesses, let
True.
alone dodgy, too good to be true schemes.
Yeah, like
Agreed.
what was it, the hedge funds and that in
Yeah.
2007, 8, 9 or whatever caused
The
a financial
GFC.
crisis. Yeah. Well, which
Yeah.
only Australia called it a global financial crisis, you know. No one else called it
Oh,
a
really?
GFC. It was just an Australian thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bit
talk
of a
it up.
downturn. Yeah. And there were plenty of people like banks in this country that were lending people way more money than they could ever pay back. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was happening with us in the UK. I don't know about you, Swanee, but I had personal loans and credit cards that I couldn't possibly afford.
That was
I dealt with it.
terrible.
I
That was
dealt
a
with
t-
it,
that-
but it was terrible.
But
yeah.
that was all happening, and that doesn't exist. By the time I left, it stopped. The getting the credit cards sent out to you, it was just unbelievable how much
Yeah, yeah.
money you could get. The
Have another one.
overdrafts. Oh yeah, I don't think
Well,
I
we've
had
just
any real money.
increased your limit.
No
yeah.
percent interest for 12 months. Just move all of that debt onto this one
Correct.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you'd keep the old one. And that was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rort.
yeah.
Because then now you had that and you'd spend that and then you had nothing to pay anything. Yeah. So it was a real shocker. I mean, yeah, it was bad. And they're legitimate businesses. They're legitimate banks.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think if you're losing money through that, it's less
Worse.
palatable than gambling.
True. And yeah, I think this was gambling.
That said, he's not a nice bloke,
Oh, but he
despite
did
his
give
obvious charm
720
in front of
square
the
He gave
jury.
his
centimetres of
skin to
skin.
Pearl.
Off
Yeah.
his back.
But this is the thing. Like,
I'll give you the skin off my back. That's
I
right.
have had a personal dealing with a con man, like someone who did this, not this, but something, not even similar to this, but a con man. And they just are a different breed. They are
Yeah.
not
It's like a
bad.
sociopath.
It's the way they operate. And it's the next thing. It's the next. Do you want to buy this off me? I've got that. Do you want this? I've got another business opportunity. There is no shame. That's one thing they don't
Yeah.
have. There is no sense of
No
Surely
that's going to
it's a
make
remorse or
form
someone
of
feel
guilt.
uncomfortable. Guilt. It is just like, oh, it's just another. No, it's just you don't have to take it if you don't want to. But here's an opportunity.
It's
There's
got to
always
be
an
a form
opportunity.
of psychopathy, doesn't
I would
it?
assume so.
Yeah.
I just find it to be, having seen it up close, I can understand why it can do damage because it's kind of disarming sometimes where someone comes across as so out there with it all. It's kind of like, well, no one's going to fall for that, mate. That's a bit of a, would never buy that off you or would never do that. But someone else does. And then what I
Yeah.
found did happen is when people would do it, they would go quiet. They wouldn't share what had
No,
happened
that's
for the
shameful.
shame.
Because the shame.
So then
yeah,
the victim goes quiet. Then no one knows what's happened over here. Well, meanwhile, he's still
Well, it
operating.
happens again.
And we saw that happen firsthand probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Mm.
And I thought we were pretty canny because we would see what was happening. But when it all came out, how many people had been affected behind the scenes and everyone going quiet because they were so embarrassed, it was like, whoa, you've got quite a lot of money from friends and contacts and whatever else.
Mm.
You know, let's invest in this, let's do that. And presenting a certain sort of lifestyle and also, and it's quite
Isn't
aspirational.
that the
Yeah,
Melissa?
This looks
What's her
good.
name? Melissa Carrick? Is it
Oh,
Yeah,
Cindy.
the one who that might not
Yeah.
know something like that?
Yeah,
where,
the
where they
ankle
found a
washer.
foot.
That was it.
They just found a foot in the
The
runner.
boyfriend's,
Yeah,
was it boyfriend's
that's the
foot, wasn't
same thing. As far as I know, I haven't actually followed the story, but I believe that's a similar thing.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Mm.
It's just always taking more. Well, certainly while maintaining this ideal, not visual, that's not the word I'm after, but
Charade.
that everybody else is looking at going, well, something must be working for them. They're off to Aspen or they're off here or that's
Yeah,
what she
yeah.
was doing.
Melissa
She was forever on
Caddick.
holiday.
Sorry,
Melissa
Caddick,
Caddick,
not
that's it,
Carrick.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Lived
obviously
in Dover Heights, a fabulous
successful.
house.
It's working for them.
Yep.
Yeah,
We
but
wouldn't
just
mind being
borrowed
part of
money
that.
from family, friends, and
Oh,
everyone.
that's the bit, right? When it
That's what I can't get.
Their own-
Strangers is one
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but
yeah.
shitting in your own backyard, I
Mm.
think we call it. Do we not?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bad idea.
That's when you go, it must have a degree of, what is it, I can't even say the word.
Psychopathy, yeah. That's it's just you're wired
Psycho-
differently, aren't you? That you can
Yeah.
do that
They are
and still
wired in a
front
different
up
way.
to Christmas drinks. You know,
Oh,
how?
totally.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
can you do
Here,
that?
I got you a $20 gift card because you're POV. I'm POV because of you, asshole. Like, just
Oh
that
no! If you give it back to me, I'll turn it around and I'll have all your
Yeah,
money
yeah.
back and that one. Yeah,
Give me a
and
doll
that
check.
as well.
I'll double that.
I just found it was this relentlessness and always being where they need to be, always at every sort of party, every function, and no one was talking to each other about what was really happening.
Yeah,
So while
yeah.
that was still working, everyone else was thinking, well, I've had a bad experience with else, but I don't want to expose myself, whatever else. So when it all came out, it was like, there you go. And then you start to look back and you go, oh, wow, actually, now that I think about it, all those parties where they'd turn up with a bottle of champagne or whatever else, order all the things, and it's like,
Someone else
then
was
next
paying
time
for
someone
it?
else was always paying for it. All that sort of stuff. They always gave the illusion of having lots of money, but it was always a bit of a facade as to what was really going on behind the scene.
I think for my sentence for Charles Ponzi is that before he gets to this point where he just rips everyone off, he just gets a job and he just works.
Yes.
Just work at a normal job and not necessarily get promoted or anything, but just a normal job, pays the bills. That'll do. And just like the rest of us, live within your means.
He needs to be a little bit
tax-
demanding, I think. He needs to have
Okay.
an awful boss and long hours, maybe get calluses and like it
But
has to
then
be
he's
a
got to pay
hard
his
day's
taxes,
work.
pay
Yeah.
his dues, and that's it. That's all he gets. There's not any, and we've, removed any capability for him to have a light bulb moment. No more ideas. You just need to put all that in a
Yeah.
box, and you need to forget about it now.
Spent his whole life just barely making ends meet. Maybe what should happen is when he gets to America, to Boston, and he gets off the boat, he actually does land on a giant cunt. And
It wasn't giant.
he falls in love with, and who then just makes him work his whole life for very little money.
Oh, goodness me. All right. Goodness. It was. I'm now going to have to leave it in because it will make
Oh, no,
no
that's why I
sense.
said it. Yay!
Rude. Oh, well, there you go. And Swanee?
No, I like your idea of having a really
Just a job.
modest but quite demanding job with
Like everyone else. you
Yeah.
know?
And you just
graft
got to
for
do the
it.
hard. Yeah, just graft. I like that. Work hard
Yeah.
and just be very working class and trying it difficult to get ahead.
Maybe
doesn't-
people don't think well of him, so that
Yeah, that's nice because you don't
You
want him to
know.
be too. Because there
No
are
one
lots
will
of
give him any
there are
money.
lots of
he's not
working
going
class
to be
people who are
popular.
incredibly happy. I don't want to suggest that working class people are not, but I want him to be. He has to work harder than that. Do you know what I mean?
He's just got to work for it. He's got to
gotta
work for it,
grind,
and no one just
graft.
gives him anything for nothing. He has no flashy business ideas. Like how can you not run a fruit shop successful?
Yes, he needs
It's
an
'cause he
honest
didn't
day's
want
work
to.
every day.
Yeah.
No respite.
That's right.
Always, yeah.
Blisters and calluses and all
Yes,
that
and
stuff that goes
hard
with
work.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
just a boss like me.
land on it.
Person who has standards. Yes,
Person who won't tolerate mediocrity.
absolutely. That's right. All right. Well, there we go. That is Charles Ponzi for us.
That was very
So,
educational. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
yes, it was quite
Yeah,
fun.
Didn't know
nice.
that.
And no one died, which is what I like. Well, La Donna Ponzi, but of natural causes, I'm sure.
I didn't realise it was something that was so old, actually. I think in my mind, I'd never really given it a great deal of thought, but I would have thought it would have been something from the 70s or 80s, something like that. I didn't
Same,
realise.
right?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was so old.
No,
And I didn't realise there were so many twists and turns. You
no,
know,
that's for sure.
it's just bizarre.
Thank you,
but
Smithsonian
I-
Institute, for bringing that to
know,
us.
right?
Yeah, no. I didn't
Ends up
realise
in
he wasn't the
Rio.
OG.
And he wasn't even, that's right, was not even the OG. Poor old Luigi Zarossi doesn't even get a look in. That's right.
Lives
Oh,
in
well.
infamy.
Infamy, infamy. They've all got an infamy. Right. And on that note, as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.